What happened in London just shattered us. I go for an evening walk. My mother goes for evening walk. This could have been any one of us.
I do not wear my hijab only and occasionally because I'm afraid someone will target me. Someone will decide wanting to kill me.
Our Canada is a place of racism. Muslims are not safe in this country.
Don't tell me your thoughts are with the Muslim community. Tell me what you're going to do about racism in this country.
ولا تقولوا لمن يقتل في سبيل الله أموات.
In London, Ontario, tonight, thousands gathered for a vigil, here to grieve for the family murdered, targeted because of their faith, and to show their support for those left behind. Local faith leaders were there and politicians from all the federal political parties. This was about more than grief, though. It was a call to action to end Islamophobia.
To those who want to hide behind freedom of expression, I ask you a simple question. What is the point of freedom of expression if a Canadian family does not have the freedom to walk on a sidewalk in this country without getting murdered?
Good evening and thanks for joining us. 3 generations of one family are dead. Their relatives have asked for privacy. Though late today, they did release this photo. These are their names. 46-year-old Salman Afzaal, his 44-year-old wife, Madiha Salman, their 15-year-old daughter, Yumna Afzaal, and Salman's 74-year-old mother, whose name has not been released. A 5th family member, the couple's 9-year-old son, Faiz, is in hospital with serious injuries. He lost his parents, his sister, and his grandmother. Thousands of people from London and across Ontario are at the vigil there tonight, a powerful sign of solidarity and a gesture of love and support for those left behind, including 9-year-old Faiz, who is now an orphan. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau calls what happened an act of terrorism motivated by hate.
There are no words that can ease the grief of having 3 generations murdered in their neighborhood. There are no words that can undo the pain and, yes, the anger of this community. There are no words that can fix the future of that little boy who has had his future taken away. Together, we will take action. Together, we will find our way forward.
Farah Nasser is at the vigil tonight. Farah, some very powerful messages there.
What can each of us do to
Absolutely, and the crowd, thousands and thousands, Donna, to the point where they're far down the street and can't even see the stage or any of the screens. People, coming to show their support today to the Muslim community. This crowd is very mixed, Muslims and non-Muslims alike. Premier Doug Ford is speaking now. He just called this an act of terrorism to arousing applause. Before him, the National Council of Canadian Muslim, the head of that organization, said that we need an emergency summit right now to address Islamophobia. Bilal Rahel is the chairperson of this very mosque behind me. Here's what he had to say.
This is our city, and we're not going to let hate scare us or intimidate us or divide us. Yes, we do expect from our political leaders to take action. And yes, we do expect to see some policies in place. But we need to recognize that we belong here. This is our city, and we're not going anywhere.
Thank you very much.
There is collective grief in this crowd. There's anger, there's energy to make a difference, to try to change this conversation to that of hope and what a better future for Muslim kids and for kids who are from different marginalized communities. But there's also a sense of fear, Donna, and I've spoken to a lot of Muslim women who are veiled who say they're still scared because they go on that walk that family went on almost every day. Back to you.
All right, Farah Nasser at the vigil in London tonight. Thank you. Global National's Jeff Semple is also in London right now. He's standing near the intersection where the family was hit by that pickup truck. Jeff?
Yeah, Donna, it has been an absolutely heart-wrenching day in this community. And take a look here as we're standing at the site where the family was killed. And this crowd has really been growing by the minute here tonight. At one point, people were lining both sides of this street. Some people climbing to lay flowers, others openly sobbing. Everyone here just trying to come to terms with the horror of what happened here on Sunday night. And a warning that some of the details in this report are difficult to hear. Kosar Maki and her family were driving past this intersection at around 8:40 Sunday night. They stopped at the red light and waved at a group of pedestrians, a family of 5 wearing traditional Muslim dress, who were waiting to cross the street.
My husband just rolled down his window and said Salaam alaikum to him, and he said Salaam alaikum, and he went. As soon as we turned away, we got home. Minutes later, we heard the ambulances. Assalamu alaikum,
the Arabic greeting, means peace be upon you. It was likely the last words they spoke. Moments later, police say this pickup truck sped towards the family, jumped the curb, and plowed into them. Police say they were targeted because of their Islamic faith.
It's scary because my husband and my children, we walk these sidewalks, and we have other families too that walk these sidewalks, and it could have been us. That's what I keep thinking. It could have been us.
Jen Karp arrived moments later to find bodies strewn dozens of meters down the street. None of them were moving except for the youngest, Farah Nasser, just 9 years old. He was found lying on the ground.
Crying, where's my family? I want my family. My leg hurts, my hand hurts. We told him that there was people helping his family, and that he had to go to the hospital, and I told him to keep his head down, and we were trying to make sure he didn't see his family. It's terrible.
The boy remains in hospital and is expected to survive. A family friend says he still doesn't know that his grandmother, his parents, and his 15-year-old sister are gone.
It was a really tragic scene. Even the police officers were in tears.
Friends say the family arrived from Pakistan about 14 years ago and were well known in the community. The couple, Salman and Madiha, both in their 40s, worked as a physiotherapist and an environmental engineer. Their daughter, 15-year-old Yumna, was a bright student at this high school where flags are flying at half-mast.
Very shy and very loving, and she was the kind who would look at you, smile, and look away. That's a beautiful smile.
The community is devastated, horrified, but not all are surprised.
Afraid for my life, for my daughter's life. What do? You go out and every truck I see, I look at it and I see a white guy, and they should open guns, man. Seriously, I need protection. We came here looking for peace. I see racism every day. Every frickin' day.
Jeff, the police are saying little about the accused other than that he was motivated by hate. He faces 4 charges of first-degree murder and 1 of attempted murder. What more do we know?
Yeah, Donna, tonight many of the details around the suspect's life remain shrouded in mystery. I spoke to a number of his friends who live in this community who say they are in shock, but also in disbelief. They say they never had any inkling that their friend could allegedly be capable of carrying out such an atrocity.
I would never have believed that he could have done something like this at all. Anyone else I would have believed could do this, but Nate not at all.
Yeah, why do you say that?
It's just not his personality, at all. This is quite a shock.
Armand Moradporian has known the suspect, Nathaniel Veltman, for several years and last saw him just 3 weeks ago. They worked together in the shipping department at this egg farm in the nearby community of Strathroy. London police visited the plant Tuesday afternoon. Moradporian's family is from Iran, and he was raised to be a Muslim, but says the suspect never appeared to take issue with that.
He never, ever thought twice about it. Me and him were great friends. He helped me out a lot when I was going through a lot of rough stuff.
No one answered the door at his parents' home. Friends say he'd had a fight with his family and moved out a few years ago. His grandmother passed away on Friday. Moradporian says the suspect had been arrested before for public intoxication, but otherwise was a devout Christian who mostly stayed out of trouble.
He was a quiet, friendly, homeschooled Christian kid, literally.
And that is now a question for police investigators to answer. How does a so-called quiet, friendly Christian kid become an alleged mass murderer? We have scoured his social media accounts online and turned up very little. The accounts didn't have much in the way of content at all. Police say he had no criminal record, no known ties to any hate group, and at this point, Donna, they believe he was working alone.
Okay, Jeff Semple in London, Ontario, thanks. This attack, like the mosque shooting in Quebec City, is yet another sign racism and Islamophobia exist in Canada. Not just feelings of hatred, but for some, a willingness to act on them. Listen to some of the people Farah Nasser has been speaking to.
He said, Dr. Saab, Salman is no more.
It's a shock to the system for Imtiaz Khan and a reminder that Muslim Canadians aren't as safe as they should be in this country. Khan can't believe one of his closest friends, Salman Afzaal, is gone.
I wish you knew how genuine and honest and sincere and good person he was.
The two played cricket together. He says the father was a pillar in the community, helping new immigrants settle in London.
He was the one who will buy groceries. He will take people for driving tests who are new to Canada.
But even with a large Pakistani Muslim population, some say there has always been an underlying hidden hate here. A survey conducted by Ipsos for the National Council of Canadian Muslims in April of 2019 showed a quarter of Canadians feel it has become more acceptable to be prejudiced against Muslims over the past 5 years.
If you wear hijab or if you're wearing, I'm not wearing proper dress, but whatever, then you can feel that people have some, they give you a look.
In 2017, a gunman stormed in a Quebec City mosque, killing 6 men and injuring 19 others. In September of 2020, Mohammed Aslam Zafis was stabbed outside the mosque where he was a caretaker. Bibi Zafis is his only daughter.
My condolence to you guys. I passed through the same thing that you guys now facing. My dad got killed by a hate crime. I am so sorry that it happened to your family.
That attack has yet to be designated as a hate crime. The last time we interviewed Zafis, she wore a hijab. Not anymore.
I'm afraid someone will target me, someone will throw things at me, and someone will decide wanted to kill me like how they killed my dad.
But for others, their resolve has been strengthened by this senseless tragedy.
I was just crying and I was worried about her safety too. But so far, people have been nice to her, so hopefully no more hate.
Carry on after a moment of silence like that.
And just a note, Donna, Madiha Salman's sister just spoke moments ago saying that her sister, she was the mother, her sister would want Muslim women to still wear the hijab and not to live in fear. Her son, who's 9 years old, is the only one left who was there that day, and there have been 2 separate fundraisers for him that have raised together $1.3 million, and that continues to grow. Donna.
The whole country thinking of him. Farah Nasser in London, thanks. The perception that Canada is a welcoming, tolerant place for people of all backgrounds and faiths is one we want to believe, and in many cases it is true. But there is a darkness lurking. Anti-Muslim hate and racism exists. It thrives online. It is sometimes stoked by politicians. And as Eric Sorensen reports, there's evidence it's growing.
I'm lost. This Londoner doesn't even know what to say to his son, who's watching this horrible story on the news.
So he's listening to all these new words about hate crime, Islamophobia.
It is a reality Muslim Canadians confront and other Canadians often ignore. A level of hate increasingly towards Muslims. It is so distressing for those who believed they were welcomed in this country.
Every so often there's this, it bobs its ugly head that, okay, hey, we're still here, you're not wanted.
There has been a steady increase in police-reported hate crimes in Canada from fewer than 1,200 in 2013 to more than 1,900 in 2019. The number of hate crimes motivated just by religion overall actually fell 7% in 2019, the most recent year from Statistics Canada, but hate crimes against the Muslim population rose 9% that same year.
They're looking for scapegoats.
This researcher says some hate groups can stoke fear of Muslims that can lead to violence, and some individuals may not even join a group.
Individuals consuming, what they are finding on some of these white supremacist, Islamophobic, neo-Nazi sites, and that is informing their own view of the world.
London, like Canada, is home to a growing Muslim population. Hate crimes here are above the national average, as they are in several major cities. But some academics say Canadians must recognize a dark side to their image as a welcoming country.
There is a virulent strain
of anti-immigrant, anti-Muslim sentiment in Canada. And unfortunately, not all of the political class is willing to accept that and deal with it accordingly.
Advocates say anti-Muslim hatred has to bring more than just condemnation.
We don't need just to tackle white supremacy, but we also need to, prosecute the perpetrators, but also the people that are inciting this hatred and this fear, online and elsewhere in communities.
The rate of hate crimes appears unlikely to drop until hate itself is addressed more directly. Eric Sorensen, Global News, Toronto.
Later in the newscast, putting aside the politics that can sometimes fuel intolerance, and how the tourism industry is itching for the Canada-US border to reopen. The federal government is getting ready to loosen the rules for fully vaccinated travelers. Bloomberg News is reporting changes to quarantine requirements could happen in the coming days. As Mike Couture explains, communities that rely on cross-border tourism can't wait.
There were tentative dates discussed, June 21st.
That's when the mayor of Niagara Falls says Canada could start welcoming fully vaccinated tourists. It's based on conversations with Public Safety Minister Bill Blair. Once 75% of Canadians have their first dose and 20% have their second. And he's told in July another step forward.
The understanding that we could have, again, further loosening of the border restrictions so that we can have more free-flowing back and forth between Canada and the United States.
Prime Minister Justin Trudeau wouldn't confirm or deny the loosening of restrictions later this month. And on the Bloomberg report that hotel quarantine rules will be eased for fully vaccinated travelers, Trudeau says they're looking into it.
Easing of restrictions will be focused on Canadians who are fully vaccinated, both because that's what the science dictates, particularly when it comes to some of the new variants of concern, like the Delta variant.
Medical experts agree, but also note when Canada does open to tourists, we'll need a standard for what counts as full vaccination.
A phased approach using places where we think the vaccine supply is reliable, where a fully vaccinated individual fits the criteria, where the vaccines are similar and ones that have been approved by the FDA and Health Canada.
That's perhaps why the government has yet to lay out a roadmap for reopening the border. Still, businesses say they need a plan so they can be ready.
The Americans will have a very robust summer tourism season. In Canada, we're likely to lose most of it.
Now, as businesses wait for a plan to roll out, the Prime Minister is encouraging people to roll up their sleeves and get fully vaccinated so that borders can reopen. Mike Couture, Global News, Ottawa.
Putting politics aside, still ahead calls for direct action to deal with Islamophobia.
You're watching Global National.
Political debate was set aside in the House of Commons today as party leaders reflected on the events in London. The worst kind of politics can and does deepen divides and fuel intolerance. As our chief political correspondent David Aiken reports, today it was the NDP leader who clearly articulated what needs to change.
NDP leader Jagmeet Singh was angry.
And I think about what that means when people say this is not our Canada. The reality is this is our Canada. This is our Canada.
You should cut your turban off.
Singh, a Sikh Canadian, has been the target himself of racist and sometimes violent attacks.
We don't want to be intimidated by hate.
Often by those who confuse him for a Muslim. He had this call to action.
We need to tackle online hate. It is a real thing. Online hate is radicalizing people. Online hate is spreading messages that teach people to hate.
The Prime Minister is ready to move.
As leaders and as Canadians, we not only have to say enough is enough, we must take action.
The Prime Minister noted his government has already boosted funding for anti-racism programs and will provide more security infrastructure money for mosques and other places of worship, and he promised to do more.
This is happening here in Canada, and it has to stop.
The opposition leader, Aaron O'Toole, turned his thoughts to the attack's lone survivor, 9-year-old Farah Nasser.
Because there's a 9-year-old boy lying in a hospital bed, we have to strive to learn and be better. The Canada of his future needs to be better than the Canada of Sunday evening.
David Aiken, Global News, Ottawa.
Next, in their own words, Muslim voices leading their community and the country through grief. It is hard to put into words what so many people are feeling about the Muslim family murdered in London, targeted, the police say, because of their faith. Knowing such hatred exists among us is hard to reconcile. We leave you tonight with some voices from the community who have found words.
My first reaction was to don't believe that it happened again. We still have hatred that may make murder, and it's very, very hard to accept.
It's horrific. It's numbing. It's painful. It's excruciating. For myself, not surprising. Where do we go? Where do Muslims go? We're not safe in our places of worship. We are not safe on the streets of Canada.
They were out for a walk on a Sunday night, like many of us do. And they were targeted because of their faith. Today, we mourn that beautiful family. When a Muslim hears of a death, we say, Inna lillahi wa inna ilahi rajiun. From God we come, and to God we return. So let's spend a minute in silence, mourning that beautiful family, and also rededicating ourselves to fighting racism wherever we see it.